Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Raise.dev Hacktoberfest Help Desk. My name is Joe, and if you are new to the show, Hacktoberfest Help Desk is a resource for you this Hacktoberfest this October to help you land pull requests to projects to get that shirt or that tree, and also get your start in open source. How does that work? What are we doing? We are coming to you 3 times a day with tips and answering your questions here in chat or questions submitted to us beforehand. I'm also showing off new projects and ways you can contribute to those projects and talking about kind of wider developer career things as part of Raise.dev's whole thing, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So if you're new here to the show, welcome. Thanks for joining us. This is our second show of the day. We do have another one coming up after that. So if you like what you see, consider sticking around and reading our schedule for the show later. At the end of the show, I'll talk a little bit more about what we've got coming up over the rest of the day and week. But for now, if you want to see our schedule, you can see that at twitch.tv, RaiseDev's schedule. Someone in the Hacktoberfest Discord is pointing out that I typoed our link. That's very helpful. Thank you, Nicholas, if you're already here. Hey, there he is. Thanks for fixing my link. So we are twitch.tv RaiseDev's schedule, where you can find our shows. That's updated on a week-by-week basis. So currently it's got the shows for today and for Friday. Over the weekend, I'll get it updated for next week. And towards the end of the show, I'll give you a little teaser of what is to come. We do have a very special guest today that you will see if you go to that schedule. And I'll bring them on in just a moment after I finish going through the preliminaries. So the other thing to mention, as I said, we are here to help you, which means that you can ask questions in chat relevant to what we're talking about or not. If it's immediately relevant, we'll answer it straight away. If it's a different topic, we'll get to it before the end of the show. It just might take us a little while to, worm our way there. So stick around. Do not worry about that. The other thing is, if you want to post a link in chat, a URL, a website address, whatever you want to call it, if you want to share one of those, you are very welcome. It could be to a project you're working on or something relevant to your question or a resource, whatever. That's totally fine. But we do have a spam bot set up because the internet is spammy. And if you post a link without asking, it will time you out for 5 seconds. Not a problem. Just let me know by @ing RaiseDevs in chat, and I will permit you to post the link. Someone gets themselves put in the corner by the bot at least once a show. So just give me a heads up before you post that link, and I'll make sure it doesn't happen to you. It's always a good laugh when someone manages to get themselves banned accidentally. So that's that. The other thing to mention is, if you haven't heard of us here at Raise.dev, we're a service to help you level up in your developer career, and we do that by matching you one-on-one with some expert coaches. And they will help you get to the next stage in your career, whether you're looking for your first developer job, trying to get promotion, trying to move from mid-level to senior, trying to level up an engineering team, whatever it is, we have a coach who can help you, and we are completely for free whilst you're in early access. You can sign up completely for free today and get matched. As Nicholas says, this is live. This is not pre-recorded. We've had a really bizarre week where for some reason people keep thinking we're pre-recorded. And as much as I'd like to think that's a compliment about our quality of content, I suspect that's just people in chat being strange. But we're not pre-recorded. It would just take us a little while to answer you sometimes because we're in the middle of a topic. Yeah, it's because I'm so smooth. I'm, as Nicholas says, I'm just so perfect that you can't tell this isn't rehearsed. Though at this point, this is like the 46th time I've done this intro, so I can't blame you for thinking that. Anyway, let me bring on our guest for the day. Please welcome Aydrian to the stream. How are you doing, Aydrian?
Doing well. Yabba dabba do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the folks who are watching?
Yeah, hi, I'm Aydrian Howard. I'm the staff developer advocate for a company called Courier. And yeah, you just saw it, didn't you? Yeah,
I did. I thought you were just going insane.
No. Well, I mean, that's fair.
Excellent.
Yeah, we are live. Yabba dabba do one
Extremely
more time.
live.
But yeah, I work for a company called Courier. We're a startup in the Bay Area, and we're helping people send notifications. So if you want to send SMS, email, push notifications, Slack messages, we make that really easy. And yeah, I'm not pre-recorded. I'm paying attention to you. I can see you in the corner of my eye. But
he's not
even though,
but he is a machine learning algorithm trained on the real Aydrian.
that's right. I've been working hard on this. But while they are based in the Bay Area, I'm located in New York City. So it's 10:07 for me right now, live.
Perfect. Just to really, really assure people, we've got the time. Definitely live. It's been such a bizarre week. So yeah, awesome. So lots of things for us to talk about as you ran through. So how we're going to do this show, it's a little peek in what we've got going on. We're going to chat a little bit about Adrian's career and DevRel, and we've spoken about this a little bit on the show, but we're going to go through that today. And I've got some questions about Courier because I'm very interested in Courier as a service. And yeah, we're going to bounce around a little bit and see how we go and where we go. So I guess to start with, I know you've been doing DevRel for a while because I know you previously worked at MongoDB with my partner. So I'd love to hear a little bit about like your career, how that started for you, and yeah, where DevRel started.
Ooh, I feel like I've always done some kind of DevRel in some capacity. I've always been kind of an outward-facing engineer.
Right.
So I really got my start in tech. I'm going to say working on my high school newscast.
Cool.
So this was back when if you wanted to do computer-generated graphics on a newscast, we had an Apple IIgs with a hero card, and but it was like in pieces all over the school.
Right.
And yeah, so I had to like assemble that and figure out how to work it because there were no manuals and there was no internet to look it up.
Right.
So like it did involve calling Broderbund. So you might remember them because they wrote the print shop. So there's if you wanted to like print out a card on your dot matrix printer, I'm really dating myself. If you wanted to print out a card on your dot matrix printer, or a fancier one at the time, if you had it, you use this program called Print Shop, the Print Shop, the Print Shop Deluxe, and that was by a company called Broderbund, and they had a piece of software for doing graphical overlays onto TV, and but it was not being sold anymore. But we had lost our diskette because you had to use a diskette to run any program. Back then. So we got that, and I got it all set up. And to actually put overlay onto video, you had to have two VCRs. So there's a thing called a VCR, and it uses these VCR tapes, and you would run it through.
Now I feel old. In fact, you have to explain what a VCR was.
I have one in my closet just in case I want to watch one of my Disney movies. But you would run the video through the card, and you wouldn't see it on the computer screen. You would see it on one of the TVs that you have set up. So you had to have this multiple TV set up. And then it would run through the card and into another VCR where you would record it. So it was a lot of manual. You got to make sure you're synchronized with all the stuff. So I did that, and it turns out I was like the first person to ever get that to work in my school. And that kind of caught the eye of this lady. She was my math teacher at the time, but she was getting ready to transition into being the person over all of technology over my high school. And so I started working with her whenever she entered this position. And I got to do a lot of really cool things. I set up computer labs back when you had to run cables for everything. So I would run the cables, I would terminate the ends, do all of the stuff. And at some point we looked to this thing called the internet. And we were like, our school needs a website. And so like I got to help put together the first website. We used something called Front Page.
I'm very fond memories of Front Page.
And I hated it. And I was like, just let me do it in Netscape Navigator Gold. Because that's how I wrote HTML back then. Oh my God. Yeah. So we ended up putting that together, and I was like, this is really hard to keep updated. So we had lunch menus that we were putting up, and those changed every week. We had announcements. We had all these different things that we thought that the webpage should have. And so someone I was working with was like, you should check out ASP. And I'm saying ASP, not ASP.NET, because that's what it was. And pre.NET, and I wrote it using Visual Basic. Or VB Script. And so I had our website hooked up to an Access database. And so
This is hitting all the notes, like one by one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. You can guess the time. So,
Does
ASP
database still exist?
I think in some form or another.
It
like
used
it's
to
probably
ship with Office, didn't it?
It used to, yeah. But yeah, so we set up this website using ASP and an Access database.
Right.
And therein lies a problem because there are concurrency issues with access.
Right.
So you don't have to really, you don't you don't have to go look this up, but five concurrent connections.
That's
So
very specific.
as you can imagine, people wanting to know what was for lunch. Our website became popular enough in my small town that more than 5 people wanted to see it at one time, and this broke down. But I can go on and on about this. It actually ended up becoming my senior project in college. So through all of this, I decided that I wanted to work with computers. And back then, whenever you were looking up computer jobs, you were looking up, what was it? A programmer analyst, I think was the title at the time. And they're like, you will make a whopping 40K max. And I was like, is that it? I was like, my friends want to be doctors and it's higher than that. So I didn't know about this whole programming thing. And there were no boot camps. Everything you had to do was self-taught and self-taught without, all the internet resources that we have today. So I think it's great that someone can just start programming by using something like egghead.io or Udemy or any of the courses.
Literally, we could spend this entire 90 minutes just listing off resources. It's like such a extent nowadays.
If you're going to talk about JavaScript applets and marquees, I am literally crying. We did use a marquee heavily in that, and we even got to the point where we were using CSS to like style the marquee. And
interesting.
And that was like people's favorite part. But I digress. So I ended up going to a small engineering school in Indiana called Rose-Hulman. And so it's been like the #1 engineering school in its class for like decades. So US News and World Reports, go check it out. But I started as a computer engineer because I was like, I'm going to an engineering school, so I should have engineering in the name, right? I did not like that. So after the first quarter, I switched over to computer science. And so I was at the point where I was like, if I want to work with computers, I'm going to have to get a computer science degree. Like, there's no way around it. If you want to work with computers today, there's so many options. And unless you, I'm not going to go tell you to get a computer science degree. If you want to do that, like, that's cool. And you're probably smarter than me. But I got through it. But to pick back up on that school's website, my senior project for college was to take that website and rewrite it to use MySQL as the database backend.
A database with more than 5 concurrent connections, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, at some point, like, did you suggest that project, or did the school con you into reworking their website?
Well, that's an interesting story as well, because you get put together with a project group, and I didn't really know these people before, and so you kind of get thrown together with them. And we all decided to do a project that I can't even remember what it was. But the way our senior projects worked was businesses around the area would submit projects, and then you would like vote, like, this is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice. And then they would put you together. Well, the group that we got put together with, we did a project. Again, I don't remember what that project was. But we got called in one day, and they're like, so we have a problem. The company that sponsored your project went out of business. So we were projectless, and so we need to find you another project. And so I called up Nancy Hunt of Southwest School Corporation. And I was like, hey, would you sponsor us fixing the website? And she said yes.
Very cool.
And so that's how it became. So I did influence us doing it, but like everybody agreed.
It was
and we
had a series of terrible circumstances as well. And
a story of my life, making the best out you can.
Hey, Internet Ramen, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Cool. Nice. Okay, interesting. So then you started rewriting the website in MySQL, which was that the main focus, was just like cutting out the access bit, or you also updating the other web technologies as well?
So we kept ASP. We kept using ASP. We kept using VB much to our chagrin. There wasn't a lot of web technologies back then. I think the one that was picking up speed was Cold Fusion.
Yeah.
Is it still around? Are people still using
Cold Fusion? I believe is still. I happened into a Cold Fusion thing like a year ago.
Yeah. So we kept with that, and the big part was migrating to the MySQL database, but then also adding features. So there was a number of features that we wanted to add on to that, and we created a whole new interface.
Right.
I remember building a web page with Dreamweaver when I was 12. Yeah, was I 12? I remember obtaining Dreamweaver, and the method of obtaining it took a week. Hello,
I remember that age
WinRAR.
Right. Yeah. I definitely remember that age where like the wisdom that was going around was like, oh, Adobe don't mind you pirating stuff, or at the time Macromedia don't mind you pirating stuff when you're a kid because you'll use it in the workplace. And it was always a fun lie that everyone told themselves, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I ended up talking the school into getting it for me.
Nice.
Paying.
Yeah, the official route. Yeah. My first website was Front Page, and then moved on to Dreamweaver, and then I got very into Flash. My first paid job actually was a Flash website, which, oof.
Yeah, I had a friend who like got really into Flash. Like, we would do all this stuff for the school corporation. I worked with. It's quite an unfortunate name, but it was called ICE at the time. It was Indiana Computer Educators. And so we would go to these conferences, and he won a copy of Macromedia Flash.
Right.
And this kid like figured out like everything. And so he was like making like little games in Flash and programming an action script. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, I was part of a little troop where like no matter what class we were in like the UK's equivalent of high school, we would be like, we would do that project or that piece of homework, but actually we're gonna do a Flash animation instead. And like I remember doing like this weird Flash animation where I was meant to write an assignment on a particular World War II battle, and instead I animated the battle or something stupid. That's very much like the space I was in.
I got out of doing a book report on Moby Dick by editing all of the photos for the yearbook.
Nice. Very good. Wicked, cool. So that was, I guess, like a first big group software engineering experience.
Yes, but we did really well, and because we were doing all this work for a school, we got a lot of attention from like the local press, and Nancy knows how to publicize everything. So like we were interviewed on the news. At the end, we had this big presentation that we did, and so it was great. And needless to say, we all got A's. So
nice, very good, very good. So that was before the computer science degree.
So that was my senior year of getting the computer science degree, which my senior year was the first year they started offering software engineering as a degree. Right. So that's when we officially became the Department of Computer Science and Software Engineering. Cool. So we went from being CS to CSSE.
Very modern. Nice. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And where through from there? So I guess from there, you're like, this would have been also, I imagine, before, well, on the very cusp of DevRel having a name, I guess. So I imagine that wasn't where you went to straight away.
I did not. It was not a great year for computer jobs. And I don't know how people like, I don't know if many people know how it was back in the day. Whenever you were getting a computer job or a programming job, you were hired as a tester. So software engineering places actually had groups of testers, and their job was to execute the scripts that we have now pretty much automated away. And so the way that you would get your start is you would start as a tester, and that would be a way that you would learn the software, and you would test it, and you would work your way into working on features and maybe bugs and work your way up to that. But like there just were not a lot of jobs available. And so I kind of fell back on all of my IT upbringing. So all of the stuff that I was able to do working for the school, like the 4 years of high school. And I even went back during the summers and worked there. And so
and that kind of thing.
Yeah, running cables, setting up systems. I've set up so many elementary school computer labs. There's like the Jumpstart programs. Like I had all the keys memorized. So like, those whenever like Office was like, we need to have harder keys for people to type in. So it's harder for people to like copy them. Like I had those memorized, but I still hated typing them in every time. Yeah. So yeah, I fell back on like my IT, and I ended up working at a, it was called Danisco at the time, but it was part of Pfizer Food Science that was sold off. And and so I was IT, and I would make sure the computers are running. And then
Right.
because my boss, she was really great, knew that I was a programmer, and she had all these needs for applications that didn't exist.
Yeah.
She would let me like write small programs that we would
Oh,
put into
awesome.
like
Yeah.
our production.
Yeah.
So in between like changing the backup tapes and like running them to the bank vault, because you have to keep tapes off site.
Such a wild.
So I would write these little apps, and I would help implement our LIMS system, which I don't remember. It's like laboratory information something our system, and there was some customization in that, and so I would do that, and then I would build other little things, and I was there for about a year and a half before I moved to a very small consulting company, which gave me the opportunity to move to Research Triangle Park and work for Sony Ericsson for a while.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I got to be on site, and so I was kind of a hybrid business analyst programmer. So we had a contract with them, and we were to move the bottleneck. And so they had all of these internal projects that needed to get done, but they have this system of getting all the requirements. So like requirements gathering, and so like I don't know if. So I like as a DevRel, I still write a lot of code, but it's like all very informal proof of concept. Like it doesn't have to work for like longer than the live stream.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
And it's also that you tend to get into like this cycle of constantly doing like, the first 5 steps of using your product over and over again, like the getting started flow. Yeah.
But like if you're bidding for a project to do, if you're one of these software companies, there's like all of these documents. So there's the requirements doc, and they have a format and all of that.
Right.
And so what I did is I went out on site to Sony Ericsson, and I started gathering the requirements and building these documents so they could be put up for bid. Mm-hmm. And because I was the one that was gathering them and writing the documents, we had a leg up whenever we would bid for those projects. And so for about 3 months, I was going up, and I moved the bottleneck. So the bottleneck moved from requirements gathering to the bidding. And so I went back to Terre Haute, Indiana. Don't worry about it. The biggest thing I can say is like that's where Timothy McVeigh was executed. And whenever I'm like Timothy McVeigh, everybody's like, "Who is that?"
That's exactly. This is my hands very excited.
Yeah. So and it makes me sad that like I have to explain this. Because this is pre 9/11. So the biggest act of terrorism. Yeah. So the Oklahoma City bomber is Timothy McVeigh, and he was housed at the federal penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana. Fun facts. Other fun facts. So this happened while I was in college, and the original scheduled date that he was supposed to be executed, all the power in the city went out. But like it had already been moved, but it was just a weird coincidence that happened that day. I don't know. But anyway, so we went back, and it was me, and sometimes we had another, like it was very small. So a lot of times it was just me working by myself, which isn't fun. But I would do the programming there, and there we were using ASP.NET 2.0.
How times have changed.
Right. And I was able to write in C#. So in college, my learning language was Java. Mm-hmm. And so I knew how to do all kinds of things in Java, which made it easy for me to like move over to C#.
Yeah. Which I mean, at this point, like would have been that close to like, I guess like C#'s like .NET inception was like still at the time, basically just a clone of Java, right? Like was what they were aiming to do very much.
It's like the biggest thing was like whether you uppercase the S in string or not, C# didn't care. That's all I remember. Okay, I think this time in my life is the last I've ever used C#. Right. Sorry, some people like it. It's cool. You do you. But I worked there for a bit, and then I continued. So again, like I was a developer. Yeah. But I was very customer facing. Right. So
quite into that rings true.
Right. So this is kind of like I've always been very like customer facing, outward facing, and I like that part. I tell a lot of people I was kind of raised in the performing arts. I've been in many musicals and plays and things like that. So it's fun for me. If you know who Chloe Condon is, the Microsoft Developer Advocate, we have a lot of fun together whenever we do projects because she was also raised in performing arts. Wrong profile. So I moved on from that job to another job where I became very client facing, and I was helping head up a department that we were we were using this revolutionary technology called SOAP Web Services to build integrations with our loan origination platform. And so that caused me to have to go to all of these different small and community banks.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to make you explain SOAP. You don't just get to gloss over that for like a generation of people who have only ever encountered REST.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't had to work with SOAP, I envy you. So SOAP, and do I remember what it stands for? No, probably not.
No, but it is an acronym. It is an all uppercase thing.
Yeah, it's an all uppercase acronym, and it uses XML to talk back and forth with the server. So it was a precursor to REST.
Right.
It wasn't JSON. It was not nice. The way the stuff you use when you wash your hands. That is very correct.
Yes,
everyone should be washing their hands.
That would have been a good out. You missed your opportunity.
My comedic timing is off today. But you would, and the best way that I could use it was to consume it using C#. So we use C# for our backend stuff, right. But we were creating web front ends basically, so people could apply for a loan online or a credit card, or it could be used internally. Because as it turns out, our product was kind of hard to use. Right. And people would pay like 30 grand per form, like per web form, to customize it to a way that their tellers were able to like type it in, and we could add validation and things like that. So whenever you hit submit, like we got everything and messages pop up and things like that.
Hearing that, like really, this is a total tangent, but like hearing that really just like explains the ecosystem around Salesforce as like a business proposition, where you're like, cool, you just get to like build forms around really complicated like business data and CRM nonsense. And like, how is that such a large business? Oh, I see. Okay, 30,000 to customize a form. Got you.
Yeah. And so like we created a very popular business unit inside inside the company. Right. And we felt like rock stars because like we could essentially like write our own ticket. Because we had a steady stream of work, and we would like, it took us, we said we would do a month turnaround for everything. Interesting thing about how we did that is before we even kind of went out and started doing these, we built this system that we called App Engine. Mm-hmm. And it, so more XML fun. Yeah. We built this language that would allow us to rapidly prototype these front end applications. And like I wrote a DTD, which is like it's like the contract for XML. So like it helped turn on like autocomplete, like IntelliSense and things like that. And so like we would go out on site and we would they were like, well, we'd like to have a drop down that has this, this, and this. And so we go blah, 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 and refresh the page, and the drop down's there, and we move on. And by the end of the time, so we usually did like 2 or 3 day engagement, talking with people and basically building out this prototype in real time. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the week, or however long, we would give them this form that they could play with. So all the interactions worked. I just didn't submit to anywhere. And then they would send it around and have people play with it and give us feedback, and we'd iterate a couple more times, and then we were basically done because we took that XML, put it through this app engine that was written in Python. So it parsed the XML and it built out the HTML controls and all of the JavaScript and CSS that was needed to do it. And then it would also generate like a very basic version of the C# handler. Right. So we could rapidly do all this. And like I go looking back now, I really wish we had a better community back then, like more people using
that's
using blogs, talking about things.
Leading framework nowadays.
Yeah, like it's like I'm like React did this better. Like there's React and there's something like Formic. There's other types of, but it's basically everything that we built, and we ran it through Python to generate all of it. Yeah. But yeah, like it would have been great. We adopted jQuery very early. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of really cool, innovative stuff with this team. Yeah. And I was there for a while, and then decided to move on because someone offered me a lot of money. Mm-hmm.
That's a good reason to move on to your next job.
Yeah. So I went to ExactTarget, which was purchased by Salesforce. I was part of that. It was nice for me. I was able to put a new roof on my house. And I started working on the email client. And so that's like the beginning of my journey into email. And I wasn't as client facing, and that I could feel that, right? Like, so I'm used to talking to people. I'm used to talking about code. I'm used to all of this stuff. And so I eventually moved over to their services department. I talked them into having a software engineer in services. So the services department was the teams that would work with our clients. So I worked with Gap and Best Buy and all that, helping them build their emails. But the problem was there was no like inter-team collaboration. There were no like software engineering practices. There was no use of source control. And we had an internal
at the client or at the exact target.
At exact target. Cool. And so we had this concept called a data structure. And that was it was basically a database, a table. And there was no UI to modify it. And so everyone would just build their own. And so you'd have like 25 versions of a data structure explorer out there. And so like one of the things I was trying to do was promote the use of source controls. Like, let's find the best one, put it into source control, and then try to like combine the features. I was starting to build other tools and things like that. And so we were doing all of this stuff. And as part of like the Salesforce expansion, my manager left, who was like my champion, and I got a new manager. And the first thing he did, he was like, "We're eliminating your position," and that kind of started my my journey into DevRel, which I found out about because we actually had dev advocates at Exact Target, and one of my projects was back to SOAP because I have experience writing a Node.js wrapper for our SOAP library, and that fell.
Like a crash of new and old.
Yeah, and so that was very interesting. Like, I think that project is still out there. Like, I occasionally get updates from GitHub that they're adding to it. It makes me sad that API has not been sunset like it's supposed to, but that's still out there. And I got to work with the dev advocates, and I was like, well, this is a really interesting thing. And the other thing I got to do is do you know who Ian Murdoch is?
I don't.
Are you familiar with Debian?
Yes. Yeah.
Ian is the Ian of Debian.
Oh, I see.
And so he was
Debian was like a portmanteau. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it was Deb and Ian. We don't talk about Deb because that was a girlfriend, and I guess later his wife was not excited about that.
God, that's awkward.
I might be saying too much, these stories. But he was our VP of platform engineering. And so that was kind of like my start of like DevRel, and then also working on client libraries. So some people call them SDKs. I call them client libraries because Ian had opinions about that. And so that kind of stuck with me. But like to this day, I'm still working on client libraries. So whenever I went to SparkPost, which was my first DevRel position, I actually, before I started working there, I was submitting pull requests to their client library, their Node.js client library, while I was interviewing, which is a great thing to do. If you can get like code into the system before you get there, they do things like not make you take a coding exam, which I hate. And I have actually walked away from.
So that's also not a universal experience, like that famous blog post from the homebrew creator when he interviewed at Google or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But
I've worked on the ones there. I did get some code into the MongoDB libraries, and then I'm maintaining the Python and the Node.js libraries for Courier. But yeah, for DevRel, like I called up a buddy that I worked with, and I was like, "Do you know anyone who could use my skill set?" And he's like, "Oh my God, me." And so a trip out to Columbia, Maryland, talking to the SparkPost people. And that was the beginning of it.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
So that's, oh God, this is, we were talking the other day about, after another guest came on, and we brought up a lot of like old technologies, old ways of doing things. I made everyone in chat very nostalgic. We talked about like, we just need to do a version of the show one day where we just like try to run old, like IDEs and frameworks and like Dreamweaver, like spin up
Oh,
Windows 95 VMs and just do a whole show going into it. And now I know who I'm inviting to that show.
that's right. Like that App Engine code, I have it on a hard drive somewhere because I was like, I'm going to keep
I
this.
thought you were going to say a floppy disk.
So I used to have a lot of things on zip disk.
Yeah, right.
And then this thing called the Click of Death happened, and yeah, I lost it all. So it's probably for the best because I had some weird websites growing up.
Yeah, I think everyone has been for a few of them. So now focusing onto DevRel.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple of DevRel guests on, but I know that every DevRel is not a super consistent
No.
job experience for everyone, especially company to company. What DevRel is and what it does changes. What has been your experience? What does your day to day typically look like, or how have you tried to what does DevRel mean to you? I guess.
Yeah, so most of my DevRel experiences are probably going to be different than a lot of ones you talk to because I come in at the beginning of a program or the reboot of a program.
Interesting.
So at SparkPost, I was developer advocate number 2, I guess. So it was like my boss and then me, and then later it was just me. And then for MongoDB, I came in at the beginning of a reboot of their program.
Yeah.
And then here at Courier, I am the first developer advocate. So trying to set that up. So a lot of things that I do are around working around like the infrastructure of DevRel. So in the case of Courier, when I came in, we didn't have a marketing department. We didn't have a blog. We didn't have like a community forum. So there are a lot of things that we were working on building. And so we have a community forum that we're getting ready to launch. Finally, there are a lot of really good changes that we wanted to put in place first before we did that. We started up the blog. We introduced it in a regular cadence. And so we have blog content going out. We have a wonderful marketing person now. So whenever you work DevRel, you're kind of like a jack of all trades. So you have to wear a lot of hats. And sometimes you get pulled more on the marketing side.
Right. And that's especially true for early stage company DevRel. Like sometimes you read these, there's like a typical hallmark kind of like startup developer advocate job posting where you read through the list of responsibilities and it essentially reads as you will do everything that's not the engineering. Like you'll run social media, you'll do the marketing, you'll do the you'll do everything essentially. So yeah, I hear what you mean, and you get pulled in different directions. And more often than not, it's marketing. You're the first person who walk to communicate to outsiders in a exciting fashion.
But ultimately, what I'm doing day to day is trying to create relevant developer content, developer focused content, and then finding and nurturing the community around our product. So I've been doing a lot of live streams. So I started doing live streams back. I was trying to start doing them when I was at SparkPost, and then I started doing them pretty regularly whenever I was at MongoDB. I had this cool show called Stitchcraft because at the time the product was called MongoDB Stitch. And so I would just get on there and program different apps, which is really, I had fun with it. And I was doing a pretty regular cadence. And then here I've been doing it every week, which is sometimes crazy. You just got to make sure you plan way ahead. It's like the only way you can do it and keep up with that planning. So Wednesdays at noon Pacific time US, we go live with Courier.
What's the channel? Is it TriCourier or just Courier?
It's TriCourier, yeah. So we're also making that migration from TriCourier to Courier. I think the social is going to stay the same for a long time because we just got the what's it called? The domain name. So we are now courier.com, which is very exciting.
Nice. Very good.
So when I'm not doing the stream, I do a follow-up blog post for every stream where I take the recording and I do a little editing, trying to fix it up, publish it to our YouTube. And then there's a blog post that wraps that and it goes out the following Wednesday. And so that's like a big effort of the content creation. And then I'm
describing my future. I've got currently now 60 hours of these streams I need to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people do like really cool programs where like if they want to like redo the intro and the outro, like they just find the timestamp for each one and then they can put those into a program and it uses like FFmpeg and something to like
Yeah.
I'm not that fancy yet. Yeah, one thing to look into for like automating of streams. Kurt Temple, I believe is his name, the worst dev, is what he goes by. But he has done a lot to like automate his streams, because I think he's doing like, I don't know, 7 for all the things he's doing. I tried to aim high. I know it's a lot. I know it's more than 3, but he's been able to automate a lot of stuff. So the more I can refine that, the more I can work on other things. I'm also trying to reach out to everybody I know to like get on shows like this, to bring people onto our show, because we are a small company. We're a little over a year old, and like our big campaign to go out and like get awareness to who we are and what we do was kind of upended by the whole pandemic thing. Because like my big thing with DevRel, and I think something that like keeps me in it, is the ability to participate in hackathons as mentor and sponsor. So somewhere out there, like on my Medium, I wrote about the business value of sponsoring hackathons, because I think it's really great, not just for awareness, but for getting feedback about the product. Because also in DevRel, we're kind of responsible for that part of that product feedback loop.
Yeah, and that's like, I mean, we spoke about hackathons. This doesn't really come up as a topic, but a lot of the guests who have come on from like, I guess, people I know, we've had that kind of incidental chat about like, oh, the reason we know each other and the reason we know X, Y technologies come hackathons. But yeah, that's something I'm a big advocate of, as having been someone who like literally got into this career through attending hackathons and meeting people like yourself and being like, oh,
exactly,
that's a thing I could do. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that's...
And we got Avi in the chat saying hackathons are so valuable. I actually met I met Avi at a hackathon, so it was like BitCamp 2015 maybe. So you meet friends for life.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, literally. There was the I kind of want to tweet this, but at some point recently, I was like, I think everyone that I communicate with on like a regular basis, or is like close to me in my life, like Hugh, who's on the show last night, who's like someone I've known for a long time now, is someone I met at Hackathon at this point, which means I probably need to get some more hobbies, but it's still
it's a good hobby.
It's you. Hey,
it's like you're helping. Like, so I always say that like my journey in tech has been very educational focused. So like in the beginning, I was working with the school corporation, and I did more than just all of that. I helped assess the teachers' technology skills. And so we used something called My Target that was developed in Indiana. And so like went everything from like mousing skills to can you use a word processor. And then we took that data and we built workshops around the different areas, and we were trying to get everybody up to a baseline, so like everybody knows how to use a mouse. There were people who didn't know how to use a mouse, like pick it up and move it a lot, things like that. And so any chance that I can get to like help people learn or have people help me learn, like that's what I want. Always be learning.
For sure. That's awesome. And yeah, actually that's funny you mentioned that. We had Sarah Griffles on a couple of days ago, who works on like with the Azure Advocates, and she does a lot of educational content, but she's particularly focused on what she called Step Zero. So like her basic thing is like all of our kind of developer content is like aimed at people who are actually already very technically proficient. That's like kind of what like the level you were talking about there, like people who, you know, the interface of a computer is an unfamiliar thing, is like a very underserved audience. It was a really interesting conversation. Cool. So yeah, I've completely lost where we went on all these tangents from. You describing your DevRel day today, I guess, and what happens at Courier. So we've spoken a little bit about Courier, and you mentioned briefly what it was. Do you want to like run us through like, I guess, Courier's whole thing and how it works? And
so let's see, we're working on our messaging, but the last
try it.
let's see. So currently we are the best way to design and deliver notifications using one single API.
Okay.
So sending notifications, messages, any channel that you want to send on. Normally, to build that out, you would have to learn like the Twilio API if you were using Twilio SMS, or the SparkPost API, or the SendGrid API. And then you would have to build all of the logic to decide when to send a text message, when to send an email, etc. And what we do is allow you to pull all of these different providers in and then route the message inside of our app. And so the developer, to send a message, they only have to make one API call. So making a Courier send call instead of, the Twilio call or the SendGrid call. And so it moves a lot of the power away from the developer, because to be honest, I don't think they want to, design emails and do all of that anyway. But it moves all that to the courier side, where you can build emails. You can build really nice looking emails pretty quickly using our drag and drop editor. You can use handlebars if you want to. We have a lot of cool fallbacks. But like you can even, design Slack messages, and you could use BlockKit with JSONet, which is something new that I discovered. Yeah, JSONet is a way of it's got like a very Python syntax. So there's like lists and array comprehensions instead of loops. But it's a way that we can merge our variable data in using code and output JSON.
Is JSONet archived in favor of JBuilder? Is that the one now?
No, well, I think it's jsonnet.org. But like sonnet, it's like Shakespeare, but it's JSONnet.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Yes, there we go.
So like we're using cool things like that. But so we kind of have two different audiences. We have the developer who implements our API. The easiest thing is sending a message. We can send a single message. We can send to a list now. But then there's other APIs that allow you to configure configure Courier. Like you can create lists using the APIs. You can create brands, things like that. But like mostly what developers are doing is they're implementing that one call and then they're done. And someone like a product manager or a designer can go in, log into Courier, and start building the messages and hook them up to these calls that are coming in. And so we've even hooked up to do like a lot of no-code stuff. So we integrate with Segment.io, or I think it's just called Segment now.
Yeah, Twilio Segment, whatever.
Now Twilio Segment. And so it's an easy way to get events to come in, and you can pick those events up and relate them to notifications, and they'll just automatically send. And you can set up recipient profiles with all the information. So we might have like a Joe profile, and it's got your email address in there. It's got your phone number. It's got some push tokens. It's got your information about your Slack. And that's all stored in your profile. And whenever it hits the notification, depending on how the notification is set up, there's like a priority queue with a fall through. So my common example is like, so I fly Delta. I mean, I did. But if there was a gate change, I will again someday. I have so many miles. But like if there was a gate change, then I would get a text message, a push message, because I had the app installed. I would get an email. And then sometimes I would also get like an automated phone call, but like all at the same time.
Yeah.
And
notifications.
We're all about sending the right message over the right channel at the right time.
Right.
And so you could set that up and have this like kind of waterfall drop down and say, if they have the app installed, send a push message. That's good enough. If they don't have that, send a text message, because people usually respond to text messages more. And then at the very last, if we don't have anything else, because we know that they have an account, we have their email address, so send the email.
Right.
And there's a lot of really cool things you can do. Like you can drop a channel. Like my example for this is like you can just drop an SMS channel instead of just dropping Twilio. And then inside SMS, you can say, my providers are Twilio, MessageBird, and Africa's Talking. And then you can put in logic to say, like, if their location is in Europe, use MessageBird. If it's in Africa, use Africa's Talking. And for everywhere else, use Twilio. And that's like a good way of like keeping the cost down, because although Twilio will send a message all around the world, it might be cheaper to use one of these more kind of native services.
That's really exciting. The reason I'm like particularly excited about that, so when I went to get over to Campus Experts program, that was like a champions program where we had people, whatever, and we wanted to announce events and stuff to them. But like that was kind of, I guess, my first experience of like doing closer community management, where it wasn't just like, hey, people are on our forum, but was like, hey, these are people we need to engage with no matter where they are and whatever time. And that really kind of showed me that like people do not consume notifications the same way. So we had some people who like wanted all the notifications through Slack, others who like muted Slack the minute they logged on, people who checked their emails, people who didn't check their emails, school emails versus personal emails, people who wanted text, people who didn't want texts. Like dealing with that and like keeping track of their preferences and making sure that we always had the best way to like, oh, we got low attendance this time, or so and so didn't show up because we only announced this webinar through Slack and not through their preferred method, was like always a nightmare. And so instantly I am super excited by this little flow chart on your like the no code powerful delivery rules on the front.
Oh yeah, that's a great flow chart.
This from a community manager perspective of like helping keep the people in my community like most informed about what's going on. I am super excited about this.
Well, and we're able to let companies like refocus their engineers on building the core product. So there are lots of places like I think Airbnb and LinkedIn, they have teams dedicated just to a notification system like this.
Right.
And Troy Good, who is our CEO and founder, created this company because he has moved from company to company. He was I think VP of engineering at Eloqua, so he's used to sending messages, and then he moved on to another place.
Can you briefly talk about Eloqua? Because Eloqua is a really fascinating company to me. They're one of these like systems which like you literally never hear of until you're sending like enterprise scale mail campaigns, and then it's everywhere. And you can't avoid it.
Well, I can't say too much because I worked for the competitor. So like I worked for Exact Target. So it was essentially the same thing. And I work with a lot of people who came from Eloqua. So I'm like a lonely little petunia in an onion patch. But like we have a lot of knowledge about sending messages. Yeah, Eloqua is a marketing automation tool. So is Exact Target. But he had to build out a system there, and then he moved on to another place, and he had to build the same system. And then I think he moved another place and had to build another system, and that's when he was like, I bet other people get into this situation. And so now we can just supply this as a service. And we've had so many customers who are like, oh my gosh, like, they've implemented us so quickly, and they've moved like engineers back over to something else. We have some really cool customers. Like Tribe XR is a virtual DJ. So like you use the helmet and you can get on and so like they're using us now to where like there's a button that you can click and it will send a message to their help desk, but it uses like our Slack integration. But it's crazy, and we have our internal hackathon. So we call it Courier Dispatch. Is our internal hackathon. It's happening next week, and the thing that I'm wanting to do is build in support for Discord.
Right.
Because we support.
I would love that.
Yeah, we currently support Slack and MS Teams, and we're starting to get some people asking about Discord, and I think it would be really cool because I've started playing with that too. And so I'm going to hit my hand at putting this together. One thing that's interesting is the way that we onboard our engineers is their very first day, we get them set up with the solution, so like how to program it, and then their first task is to implement a provider. And so even me as DevRel, I implemented the Plevo provider. So Plevo is another they do SMS, and I think they're Europe based.
Right.
But like, and it took me about an hour. Like it was a lot of fun, and like I can look at it and be like, yeah, we support that because I put that in there.
Cool. So. Awesome. Super cool. Yeah. I'm not going to hijack another stream to talk about my love for Discord, but I think one of the reasons why it's a good time to do that, and I know you're already thinking about it, but it's like I have been trying to get so many communities onto Discord from Slack because Slack is not built for communities and doesn't allow moderation or this kind of stuff. But for the longest time, everyone was really reluctant because of like, the very strong and particular branding of Discord. But now that they've dropped it and it's all community only and not just gamer memes, we're finally seeing like Electron just started up on Discord as like their official servers there now. So it is very rapidly becoming a thing where the developer ecosystem is.
Well, and it opens it up to like, all of the things that are essentially like game apps, right? Like, or opens us up to them because they're still using it.
Right. Awesome. Cool. Backstage is on GitHub. Oh, I don't know what Backstage is. Backstage Capital?
I don't know.
Backstage JS. I'm guessing is the one you're talking about, given that it's Hugh Rawlinson, so it's probably JavaScript. A server CLI for deploying individual branches, that one. Spotify Backstage. Oh, I see.
Oh.
Cool. No, wrong one. Okay. Yes. Yes, that makes sense. Rad, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for running us through that and for sating my curiosity. So you said you maintain, some of the SDKs and like some of the client libraries for Courier. I was looking the Courier GitHub organization and was like really excited, interested to see just how much of their stuff is open source, including their website, which is really neat and like unusual. And the reason where I'm kind of going with this is like you and I had a brief conversation when we were talking about the show about like, I guess doing open source at work.
Yeah.
And the balance of that and how, so where I guess like put the, like to say very openly where I want to go with this at the moment is like where we've had a lot of guests where we've spoken a little bit about like, the burden of maintainers. And I guess the kind of little conversation I want to have with you is like expectations we as an industry have around open source and basically people doing open source as unpaid labor, and that it's okay to not do that, and that like you can just focus on it in your job. So yeah, you had in particular said that like most of the open source you write is for your job. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so like you said, our client libraries are all open source. So like we're happy to accept pull requests. The people who usually contribute are our customers.
Right.
And I do a lot. Like I try to keep it as up to date as I can. So we just released list support. And the first client library to get that was the Node.js library. And so I released that, but that means that our Python library, our Go library, all the other ones don't have support for that yet.
Right.
And I can't just do code libraries. So like the ones that I feel the most comfortable in are the Node library and the Python library. So I created that one from scratch, the Python. And then I'm trying to learn Go so I can help maintain that one because we're getting an uptick of people wanting Go. But yeah, like, so I consider those open source because, you can see the source, right? Is that's what it means, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I don't go and work on other open source projects because I'm kind of done programming. But like even back to to Spark Post, like we considered those open source client libraries as well. Our API was open, like you could build on, and we had people build on. We had people build whole libraries. Like someone graciously built a whole C# library for us.
Nice.
And we thanked them with like a jacket and a backpack and like every piece of swag we could pull out of the closet.
Right.
Because it was just like it was a big undertaking, and it was like at parity too. So it wasn't just what I like to say, for us to have a client library, it needs to hit like a certain MVP. So it has to support our bearer token auth. It has to support send, and there might be some other things. I need to like write all that out basically. But people will request things, and I do watch those. So I have them going into a Slack channel so I can make sure I see them. Because if you like send me something on GitHub, like I probably won't respond to you for like 2 years. Whoops.
We've covered the mess of GitHub notifications.
I still don't know. Like I'm still getting notifications for things I'm not even involved in anymore. Right. And I just don't have time. But yeah, like from like a client library perspective, it's been pretty tame. People will request things, and we'll be like, if you need help, I'm happy to help you, or we're working on that right now. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Oh, it's, Nicholas talking about the GitHub notifications you can from. We were looking when he was on last night. We got into a conversation about the first thing you should do when you set up a GitHub account is unsubscribe from all notifications because it is a mess otherwise. Cool. Neat. Awesome. So yeah, that was all the topics I had down to cover. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we let you go?
Wow. What? I don't know. I feel like I'm just like, I mean, I'm happy to like talk about anything. I didn't have anything else on my mind.
Cool.
Oh.
Thanks for bringing that blog post back, Hugh. That blog post that Hugh just posted is from Mike McQuaid, maintainer of Homebrew, who has a disgusting amount of GitHub notifications. He also works at GitHub, and he wrote a good blog post on managing a large number of GitHub notifications. Though it is now out of date because they've changed the how notification that they've changed the notification view. But a lot of the advice in there is really useful. He recommends Octobox, I believe, which you now wouldn't have to do because basically the new GitHub notification panel is Octobox in a lot of ways.
Nice. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a lot of fun. And I think we covered some really good ground. And I'm excited. I'm genuinely very excited to try out Quarry. This feels...
Yeah, everyone sign up. I should mention that we are free to sign up. We don't require a credit card. 10,000 notifications.
10,000. I saw that. I was like, that's okay.
Now, do remember that you have to, like, if your provider charges you, then you still have to cover those. So, like, any text messages.
Subsidizing Twilio for us, right? Like,
right. But if you think about sending messages to something like Slack or MS Teams or hopefully soon Discord, like those don't charge you to send messages. So then you only have to worry about our notification. Yeah, but free to sign up. I recommend everybody sign up. If you do anything really cool with it, come find me. I'm always looking for people to be on Courier Live. Nice. And you can actually, there is a glitch team that I created for Courier. So if you go
there is a team on Glitch, the app.
So all the applications that I'm building, I'm trying to put out there. And so it's, the glitch is glitch.com/tilde-courier, I believe. And and so there's like examples of like a Slack / command. I wrote like a little app, a little weather app that sends things, so you can see like how to interact with our API using Express.
Yes. I can't find your glitch.
Is it not tilde-courier?
It doesn't look like. Oh, it's at Courier. There we go. That'll do it.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, Courier. There you go.
Oh,
cool. I didn't know there were glitch teams. That's neat.
It's
I learned so much today.
Yeah, it's new and but I did a little Django example. Yesterday, I did a live stream with Avi Goldman, and he built Parcel, and so we have like a little server running that takes care of interactive emails.
Nice.
Lots of fun things.
Yeah. Awesome. Wicked. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I will do the awkward backstage shuffle and enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again for joining us. If people want to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, most places on the internet, I'm at It's Aydrian. So ITSAYDRIAN. And just get used to the spelling. It's going to be all the new rage.
Yeah, warning advance, as I discovered today, macOS likes to autocorrect it.
It does, yeah. So that's where I am on Twitter, on Instagram, if you want to see pictures of my dog or food. That's where I am on Twitch. Yeah, reach out. It's fun.
Well, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
All right, thanks, Aydrian, and thanks everyone for watching. So there's a brief recap. We spoke about Aydrian's career and how he ended up in Devrel, what Devrel is and what Devrel means to him, his day-to-day. We got into some really cool nostalgia and spoke about Courier and the different ways you can use Courier for really cool and exciting things. I've posted a whole heap of links. I need to get a better way to collect these links for our stream. Maybe I should use that open source Linktree alternative that Erica showed us last week. But next up, the rest of the day, that was our second stream today. We have one more to come, and that is you'll be able to find that at twitch.tv/RaisedDev's schedule. Our next stream is with Jennifer Davis of the Porter project. So Porter is let me pull it up right now so I can describe it accurately. Porter is part of the CNCF landscape. Here it is. Hold music. Porter.sh. Porter.sh. Porter is a really cool tool in the DevOpsy world, in the deployment world. It is a application that helps you deploy your applications, essentially. It's just been added to the CNCF in the incubation period, or whatever that first part of the CNCF is called. And Jennifer Davis is at Microsoft and is part of the Porter project. Is going to come and chat to us about the project, how we can use it, how we can contribute to it. You've still got a week left of Hacktoberfest, and this is a big project to contribute to. So that'll be a good one to start. So that will be in about 5 hours, 10 p.m. European time, 8 p.m. UTC, 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. So that'll be here right on this channel. You can find that schedule at Raised.dev's schedule. And if you want a notification when we go live, follow the channel, hit the little love heart, then hit the bell. That'll give you a notification when we go live. Or you can follow us at Raised Devs on Twitter, where we will tweet an hour before the show, as always. So it is impossible. It is impossible to miss us if you follow us on Twitter and on Twitch. So that is what's coming up next to schedule. Let me give you a little teaser of what's happening tomorrow. And it's late enough in the week. We can talk about next week as well. Why not? Let's get a little teaser for next week. So tomorrow in the morning, that's the wrong week. We don't have Nicholas Carrigan tomorrow. That's next week. Tomorrow in the morning, we've got Josh Jazilak from Orbit. Orbit is a really cool project for like analyzing your developer community, essentially, whether it's on GitHub or wherever it is, as well as a model for kind of measuring the health of your developer communities. I'm really excited about that project because I work with developer communities a lot. But we've got the founder or co-founder, Josh Jazilak, on tomorrow morning to talk to us about that. And we're also going to be looking at, we're going to be playing the old code game with him, what we call Git Blame. So he's bringing some old Hugo code, and we're going to review that Hugo code and what he would do differently today. Then we have Stefan Young from Customer.io. That is a old code review again, but it's going to be quite a funny old code review because Stefan is bringing an SMTP server that he wrote that is still in use at Customer.io. So we're going to be reviewing that code in terms of what he would do differently, and then maybe he'll actually go do it for the code that's still running. Then we've got Corey Alexander, and that is a special show because that is not hosted by me. That will be hosted by John, our founder. And Corey is a Ruby dev, and that's a double bill. So that's going to be first up Git Blame and then maintain a show and tell. So Corey will be showing us the Sleet project, which is a project which he's no longer working on. It's a Ruby project. And we'll be talking about that in terms of what he would do differently today. And then we'll be looking at a project he does now actively maintain, which I've said this for 3 shows in a row now, that I wasn't completely sure what the story was with that. So I'm going to check that right now. So the new project that he maintains, I believe the story on it was that it was originally written in Bash and he rewrote it in Rust. That is exactly the story on it. So he originally wrote it in Bash and then rewrote it in Rust. So that's the project that he's going to show and maintain a show and tell. So that'll be super cool. So that's tomorrow, Friday. That's the last show of the day. And then that's the last show of this week as well, in fact. So next week, we have, again, a packed schedule. We are on 3 times a day. Almost. We're booking the last slot in now. There's literally 1 slot left on our calendar that's unbooked, but we've got a guest for it. We're just getting confirmation. So tomorrow on Monday, the first guest of the week is going to be Tanya Allard. Then we've got Michelle Mannering from GitHub. That'll be the last show. God, what time is that going to be for her? Michelle's in Australia. Ooh, that's going to be a bad time. Tuesday, we've got Prince Wilson. We've got Nick Taylor. That's another Dev2 takeover. So the Dev2 folks take over the channel, and they work on Forum, the platform that powers Dev2. Then we've got Martin from Enzo, who I believe is in the chat, on Tuesday, the late show. Wednesday morning, we have Matt Cowley back again. Matt Cowley, community platform manager at DigitalOcean, enjoyed talking to us about Hacktoberfest so much, he's back again. And that time, we're going to focus more on CDN.js and look through CDN.js, the other project he maintains. Then we have got Wilhelm Klopp back again. Wednesday's kind of become our regular visitors day. We've got Wilhelm back again, and we've got Angel Riviera from Circle CI. Then Thursday, we have Gianluca, and Gianluca is from Equinix Metal. I was really trying not to pronounce that wrong, so Rain doesn't come back on the chat and tell me I'm doing it wrong again. Equinix Metal, if you enjoyed the stream of Rain, Gianluca is one of Rain's colleagues. Nathaniel from Twilio, Sam Lanning, who was at GitHub. I don't know where he is now. This will be. I've said a couple of times this show that this show is an excuse for me to catch up with people I haven't spoken to in a while. That's going to be very much the case with Sam. But Sam is awesome. He was working at Semel. They got acquired by GitHub. And then he worked there for a while. On Friday, who do we have on? Mr. NH Carrigan himself there in chat. We'll be joined by Nicholas. We've got Eddie back. Eddie was our first guest on the show, way back at the start now, what feels like a million years ago. Eddie's coming back to talk to us about the end of Hacktoberfest, because Eddie has also been doing a whole bunch of activities all throughout. He's like he described himself as an open source advocate. So he's been really busy this Hacktoberfest. So we're going to get a little bit of a recap from him, how he thinks it's all gone, what he's been up to. And then our last show is with our very own Chris Ewald, who you will have heard a lot if you've watched our shows, because a lot of the Raise.dev alum who have come through the show have mentioned Chris, have mentioned being coached by Chris, have mentioned learning from Chris. We have Chris as very last show. And we may be doing something on the 31st. We haven't decided yet. There's a plot brewing in the Hacktoberfest Discord where we're considering just opening up the StreamYard to the people in the Hacktoberfest Discord and having folks come on and talk to us about what they've been working on this Hacktoberfest. We may be doing that. I've got to work out the logistics behind that. But if we do that, I'll let you know as soon as that's scheduled. So that's everything from me for the show. I will see you in about 5 hours. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. And a final note from me, if you haven't already signed up for Raise.dev, we are a service to help you level up in your developer career, whether you're trying to get your first job, or you're trying to move, you're trying to go from mid-level to senior, you're trying to level up an engineering team. Whatever jump in your developer career is that you're trying to make, we have expert coaches who are here to help you with that. They help you get the experience you need to make that transition. And you can apply completely for free today, whilst we are in early access, and you can sign up right now at raise.dev. So thank you all very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or morning, whichever it is, and I will see you in 5 hours. Thank you so much.